The AGM-88 Harm anti-radiation missile impacts the Iranian search radar at Bandar Abbas at 1,500 miles per hour. There was no time to react. The missile's fragmentation warhead shreds the sensor array, turning a multi-million-dollar tracking system into scrap metal in exactly 0.4 seconds. While the primary dish is still spinning from the kinetic force, a second AGM-88 Harm follows the residual heat trail to vaporize the facility's hardened power vault. Simultaneously, an EA-18G Growler loitering 40,000 feet above the Gulf paints the entire 1st Naval District with high-intensity digital noise. In the heart of this artificial silence, the jump lights inside a lead C-17 Globemaster III flash from red to green. The first wave of the 82nd Airborne pours out into the night. Their descent is a mathematical certainty, a vertical envelopment occurring while the enemy is still trying to figure out why their steel ring has just been reduced to a total information vacuum. Imagine a clock. Not a digital one on your wall, but a psychological one ticking in the mind of every commander in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. This clock is set to exactly 18 hours. From the moment the order leaves the Oval Office, the all-American 82nd Airborne Division can have thousands of paratroopers floating over any coordinate on the surface of the planet. As of March 2026, that clock has hit zero. Inside the cavernous hold of a C-17 Globemaster III, 2,000 soldiers are packed into modular formations, their gear checked and double-checked. They operate on a three-dimensional warfare concept, bringing with them light armored vehicles, air-deployable artillery, and an integrated logistical support system. While the world watches the diplomatic cables, the C-17 Globemaster III transport aircraft are already banking over the warm waters of the Persian Gulf. The plan is simple but devastating: a vertical envelopment. While Iranian coastal defenses are pointed at the horizon waiting for ships, we are coming from the clouds. The 82nd is moving in blocks of 2,000 to 4,000 soldiers. If the enemy blinks, we have an entire combat brigade on the ground. If they blink twice, we have the whole division of 18,000. While the 82nd Airborne handles the vertical assault, the architecture of silence is maintained by the most advanced sensor fusion platform in existence, the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye. Patrolling at 25,000 feet, the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye functions as the central nervous system of the theater. Its AN/A-PY9 radar has a detection range of over 310 miles. This is the equivalent of sitting in the center of New York City and being able to track every single car moving in Washington, D.C. The Hawkeye uses a high-speed data link to assign targets to other assets in the web. If an Iranian Fateh 110 ballistic missile is detected during its boost phase, the Hawkeye automatically feeds the telemetry to an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer in the Gulf and a THAAD battery at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. This is sequence logic. The computer assigns the most efficient interceptor based on time to impact and probability of kill. To protect the incoming transport planes, the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye coordinates with the EA-18G Growler to perform active masking. The EA-18G Growler identifies the specific frequencies used by Iranian surface-to-air missile batteries such as the S-300. It then fires a concentrated burst of energy at those exact frequencies, creating a dead zone in the enemy's radar coverage. Through this dead zone, the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber moves toward its target. The B-2 Spirit is the slowest asset in the air, but it carries the heaviest punch. It has already released its payload of GBU-31 JDAM satellite-guided bombs. Each GBU-31 JDAM is programmed to hit a specific bunker vent or radar array on Karg Island. By the time the paratroopers of the 82nd Airborne are at 1,000 feet, the primary threats to their descent have already been vaporized. The sequence is flawless. We are seeing a total collapse of the enemy's OODA loop. Their ability to observe, orient, decide, and act. If you were the commander on the ground, would you prioritize the capture of the oil valves or the neutralization of the inland missile batteries first? The sequence of this war depends on that choice. Tell us your tactical logic in the comments. We read everyone. While the 82nd is securing the Tinba Islands, the amphibious fist of the U.S. Navy is striking the most critical target in the theater, Karg Island. Karg is a 12-square-mile rock that represents 90% of Iran's oil export revenue. If the 82nd is the cork in the bottle, Karg Island is the bottle itself. The assault is led by the USS Tripoli, an America-class amphibious assault ship. On board is the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, a force of 2,500 Marines specialized in island seizure. The 31st MEU is supported by the MV-22 Osprey, a tilt-rotor aircraft that combines the vertical takeoff capability of a helicopter with the speed of a fixed-wing plane. This allows the Marines to launch from over 100 miles offshore, well outside the range of Iranian coastal artillery, and arrive at the target in under 30 seconds of transition time. Supporting the MV-22 Osprey is the AH-1Z Viper attack helicopter. The AH-1Z Viper is the ultimate street fighter of the sky. It uses its M197 20mm cannon to suppress IRGC ground troops, while its AGM-114 Hellfire missiles target armored vehicles and hardened fuel storage tanks. The kinetic impact of an AGM-114 Hellfire is like a high-velocity sledgehammer punching through a brick wall. It liquefies the internal components through a shaped charge jet. As the Marines hit the beach, they utilize LCAC hovercrafts. These massive vessels can carry an M1A1 Abrams tank over the water at 40 miles per hour and transition directly onto the sand. The LCAC hovercraft allows the U.S. to land heavy armor on 70% of the world's coastlines, compared to only 15% for traditional landing craft. This technical advantage forces the Iranian defenders to protect the entire island rather than just the ports. They are spread too thin, and the 31st MEU exploits this by concentrating their armor at the island's most vulnerable point, the desalination plants. Karg Island has no natural fresh water. It relies on massive desalination facilities to keep its personnel alive. By securing these plants and the island's electrical grid, the Marines create a sustainable occupation. The IRGC defenders are faced with a technical dilemma: stay and fight without water, or surrender and live. Most choose the latter. While the world's eyes are on the burning oil terminals of Karg, a far more dangerous operation is occurring 200 miles inland. The mission is to secure Iran's nuclear capabilities at Isfahan, where over 440 pounds of uranium enriched to 60% purity is stored. This operation is carried out by the 1st Special Operations Task Force Delta Force and the 161st Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers. The 161st SOAR flies the MH-47G Chinook, a heavy-lift helicopter modified with terrain-following radar and mid-air refueling probes. They fly at nap-of-the-earth altitudes, sometimes less than 50 feet above the desert floor, to stay underneath the radar lobes of Iran's internal defense network. Once on the ground, they move with the efficiency of a precision machine. Their mission is extraction. Using specialized shielding containers, they secure the uranium stockpiles. Every second counts. To ensure their exit, SEAL Team 6 is simultaneously conducting a maritime raid on the underground missile bases on Qisham Island. The SEALs use underwater delivery vehicles to approach the coast-planting C-4 demolition charges on the intake vents of the underground hangars. If the IRGC tries to launch a retaliatory strike while Delta Force is at Isfahan, the SEALs trigger the charges. The resulting pressure wave collapses the hangar doors and buries the missiles under thousands of tons of rock. This is the interdependence principle. The SEALs don't need to win the war, they just need to clear the path for Delta Force. The coordination is handled by the Green Berets on the ground in neighboring countries, who are using local intelligence networks to track the movement of IRGC reinforcements. Every move Iran makes is fed back into the kill web, where the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye analyzes the data and retasks assets in real time. Iran is not a helpless bystander. Their response is desperate and violent. They possess one of the most comprehensive asymmetric warfare inventories in the region, including over 2,000 ballistic missiles like the Sajal, the Shahab-3, and the Fateh 110. As the 31st MEU secures the Karg oil terminal, the Iranian radar finally manages to burn through the U.S. jamming for a few seconds. They launch a swarm attack. Thousands of Shahed 136 and Mohajer 6 drones are released alongside the Mosquito fleet of fast boats armed with anti-ship missiles. But here is where the economic trap closes. To intercept a $30,000 Shahed 136 drone, the Iranians expect us to fire a multi-million-dollar missile. But the U.S. defense architecture is smarter. At the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia and the Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE, the Patriot and THAAD air defense batteries are integrated with the E-2D Hawkeye. We don't waste expensive interceptors on cheap drones. We use electronic warfare to soft-kill the drone's GPS guidance, causing them to crash harmlessly into the sea. When the Iranians launch their heavy ballistic missiles like the Sigil, the THAAD system takes over. The THAAD interceptor hits the incoming missile like a kinetic fist punching through drywall, destroying it in the upper atmosphere before it can reach our troops. The Iranian commanders are forced to watch as their investment in missile technology is neutralized by a system that costs them more to attack than it costs us to defend. For every dollar Iran spends on an attack, they lose $10 in strategic value. The most alarming scenario remains Iran setting fire to the oil facilities on Karg Island. If we seize the island to cut off their revenue, they might burn it to the ground as a scorched earth policy. This would send shockwaves through the global energy markets. But with the AH-1Z Viper and Marine Raiders securing the valves and pumping stations in the first minutes of the assault, the sequence is designed to prevent the fire before the match can be struck. The primary lesson learned from the neutralization of the strait is that firepower is a commodity, but sequence is a weapon. Iran relied on building static defenses on Abu Musa and the Tums, assuming their 2,000 ballistic missiles and thousands of sea mines would create a no-go zone for the U.S. Navy. They built a defense to fight a fleet of ships, but we didn't send a fleet. We sent an integrated network. The failure of the IRGC was a failure to account for sensor-to-shooter latency. In the U.S. kill web, the time between a sensor detecting a target and a weapon impacting that target is measured in seconds. In the Iranian system, that process was measured in minutes of radio chatter and human decision-making. By the time an Iranian commander on Greater Tumb could report the 82nd airborne jump, his radio was already jammed by an EA-18G Growler, and his command bunker was already being targeted by a GBU-31J DAM. The lesson for any future adversary is clear: if your decision-making process is slower than our data link speed, you have already lost the war before the first shot is fired. Furthermore, Iran underestimated the economic sustainability of American defense. They believed they could bleed the U.S. Treasury by forcing us to use expensive missiles against cheap drones. They didn't realize that our electronic warfare capabilities had evolved to solve the cost per interception problem. We fought them with 50 cents worth of radio waves. The final strategic takeaway is the importance of infrastructure inversion. Iran built the desalination plants on Karg Island to sustain their own military, but in doing so, they created a single point of failure that the 31st MEU turned into a leverage point. We didn't have to destroy the army, we just had to own the water. As the sun rises over the Persian Gulf at the end of March 2026, the strategic map has been rewritten. The Toonbi Islands and Abu Musa are now U.S. logistical hubs. Their airfields supporting regular rotations of C-17A, Globemaster III, and F-35C Lightning II aircraft. Karg Island is under the control of the 31st MEU